Greg Brunts here with GREE. I want to talk to you about doing dual fuel applications with the GREE FLEXX unit. So first of all, you're going to need a 2 heat, 1 cool, dual fuel capable thermostat. That dual fuel capable thermostat can be with or without an outdoor temperature sensor. It also can be a dual fuel capable thermostat with or without Wi-Fi. Thing is though, if it has Wi-Fi, it will use the temperature from the local weather app to determine what the outdoor temperature is. That allows you, either with an outdoor temperature sensor or with the weather app, to be able to go into that thermostat and say, whatever temperature you decide, that the gas furnace will take over and do all the heating. It's not required, because with the dual fuel capable thermostat, the way they work is the first stage is going to do your heat pump heating. Your second stage is going to be your gas heat. That's the key to dual fuel. The dual fuel thermostat is not going to let the heat pump and the gas furnace run at the same time. And you can't have them run at the same time, because if you think about it in an upflow application, if you got a gas furnace, the coil in the supply, because the coil should always be in the supply, so the coil is above it. The furnace is trying to release its heat. The heat pump is trying to release its heat, and they can't both release their heat at the same time like that. And then therefore the heat pump gets really aggravated and probably be out on high pressure in doing that. So that's why I have to make sure only one or the other is running. So, all right, so now you know the requirements. Let's jump right into doing the wiring on it. So I have a wiring diagram here to kind of go through. So first of all, your Y connection, I'm showing it at the furnace with a splice. But again, that's going to determine what furnace you're using, because some furnaces do have a Y1 and they may even have a YY2. And then what I've also know about gas furnaces is when you get G in there, especially if you've got an ECM blower or a variable speed blower, that thing is only going to run at 50% of the blower speed, and that's not going to be fast enough for that heat pump application. So if you have a Y1 and a Y2, you need to look at the furnace instructions to get the right CFM and determine whether the Y from the thermostat needs to land on Y1 or Y2 to get the proper blower speed for heat pump, heating, or cooling mode. So secondly, you're probably not going to have a B terminal in here. So your B terminal is for reversing valve. So it's just going to get spliced at the furnace, and then you need to go into the thermostat. If you have an OB terminal, make sure you set that up to energize the reversing valve during heat mode, because the GREE FLEXX unit, the reversing valve is energized in heat pump heating mode, not in cooling mode like a lot of other manufacturers do. And then as far as auxiliary heat goes, your furnace may have a W, it may have a W1, and it may have a W2. All depends on the furnace. So in this application, we're just showing this as a single stage furnace. So you would use W2 or auxiliary, depending on the thermostat. It's going to be one or the other. And that's going to be your second stage heating to bring on the gas furnace. But in dual fuel application, it will not send power out on Y, therefore the heat pump won't be running. Now if you have a 2-stage furnace and you have a W1 and a W2, then your thermostat, you would need a 3 heat, and it would be W3 or auxiliary, and then that would go to your W2 in order to get your 2-stage furnace working properly. Some of them also have auto stage, and you can set it up that way. Again, refer back to your furnace installation instructions, and that'll help you determine what you need to do there. The rest of the connections are pretty basic. It's R to R to R, just like any other heat pump or air conditioning setup. Same with common all the way through, and your G for your blower for fan on. And then lastly, optional float switch. It can be put in between the thermostat and the furnace, or in between the furnace and the outdoor unit. We just want to make sure you understand you have to break Y going to that flex unit in order to get the thing to shut down. Because if you break R going out to this flex unit, it will not shut the unit down. R is out there for one reason and one reason only with the flex unit, and that is for the relay to be able to send the 24 volts back during defrost. So let's talk about defrost for a second. So let's say we go into defrost and we get a W1 signal from the flex outdoor unit, and it engages the gas furnace, which is perfectly fine, because at that point the heat pump is going to be running in cooling mode with the outdoor fan off. The air conditioning coil will be absorbing heat. so all it's going to do is aid in defrost. It's not going to hurt anything. But I want you to keep in mind with the Flex outdoor unit, the defrost cycles are rather short, usually only about 2 minutes, and the chances of that furnace getting through its initial startup sequence to actually light that furnace, the Flex outdoor heat pump is probably going to be back in heat pump heating mode by the time the furnace ever lit. So you may or may not want to connect that up, and I'm going to leave that up to you guys out in the field to determine what you want to do with that. So lastly, what we need to talk about in dual fuel applications is you should put a transition fitting between that furnace and that coil, just because we want to make sure we're not going to have any issues with the drain pan, and that we get good flow from the furnace through the entire evaporator coil, especially if the furnace is larger or smaller than the evaporator coil. We need a proper transition fitting to force all the air from that furnace through both slabs of that A-coil, so we get proper airflow through the A-coil during heat pump heating mode and in air conditioning mode. And we're not restricting the airflow on the furnace, so that we don't end up having the furnace cycling on limit. So with that said, hope this all helps you out, and with GREE, remember, we're always by your side.